In a world of increasing mental health challenges, psychology and faith can both provide tools for healing and wellness. This is the idea behind Journey on My Mind. Each episode, our panel of pastors and therapists sit down together to share their experiences and insights on the modern world's mental health issues, depression, loneliness, aging, addiction, and so much more. Join us now as we explore what it means to thrive at the complex intersection of spirit and psychology.
Welcome to another Journey on My Mind. We have a full staff, and we have
still open.
Extra people in the room, and they're about to close the door. They turn the air down.
It's a great intro.
And with that comes, thanks, Edwin. See ya.
See you guys.
Our technical people have
I've
fled
just
the
left.
building.
That's right.
left.
That's
Yeah.
right.
We're on our own.
And
We have a special guest producer today.
Yes, we do.
Oh, Michelob.
But with that being said, welcome to Journey on My Mind. We have
Thank
a
you.
full crew today.
Yep.
Sam's in from wherever he goes all the
Yep.
time. Lauren has worked us
Lauren.
into her schedule, and we're very glad to have her.
Yay.
And Dave and I, who seem to just always show up.
We always are here.
We gotta plan more in advance, guys.
Okay, we got to plan more.
more.
Okay, we got to plan more in advance.
Yeah.
That's on me and Dave. We are the ones that
Plan
end up
or don't plan.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Sorry about that.
Yes. We got out of that one.
But today we're going to continue our conversation around healthy church or psychologically healthy church. And I asked Dave, or Dave asked himself, or however we want to say this,
Dave, yes.
to give us a recap of part one. But before we do that, I want to applaud you. Lauren and I were able to be at your magic show.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes.
And Edwin, who
Who
fled
left.
the room.
So I was
Yeah.
going to mention Edwin, but he
He's
left. And what a good time.
Oh, thanks.
Great stories
Yeah.
and lots of fun. And I'm sure you've seen many of those tricks before.
I've seen a few of them. I had not seen all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Dave does magic in our staff meetings, so everyone loves it, and I get to see it a lot. So,
Yeah,
That's awesome.
And that was in air quotes. Everyone loves it.
yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
They have to.
I do on occasion. I try not to impose it too much on the staff. meeting.
Yeah, you don't do
Yeah.
it very much, but it is funny to see how different people react.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is the occasional staff member who's like, "You're a witch." I mean, very upset about, like scared of it.
Yeah.
That's my favorite reaction.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
Mine too. It's like
Yeah.
some people are fascinated. Some people get mad about it.
Oh, I gotta leave. I gotta leave. I
and
gotta
some
get
people
out of
get
here.
all wigged out about it.
That's hilarious.
So I actually, that helped me with the show because
yeah?
I built in this whole part about how this is all a lie.
Yes. He
Because
started with that. I'm
Right.
lying to you.
I'm lying to you
That's
because I
awesome.
would be like, this is not, I'm not reading your mind. This is not voodoo or witchcraft. This is just,
Yes.
it's a lie.
Yeah. Is that the line from Princess Bride? Witch? The one about the witch? Or was that something else?
She's a witch.
It's from
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
I
it is
can't
something.
remember.
Maybe it is. I don't know. But
Why can't we think of that reference?
I don't.
She's a witch.
Yeah.
I'll come up with it.
Yeah.
It's not Monty Python.
No, it is.
Is it Monty Python?
No, it is. He's right. Princess Bride.
Okay.
It's Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah. Okay.
Carol Kane.
Okay.
She's a witch. That's what it is. That's it.
Took a minute, but we got there.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
yes.
thank you for saying that. It was
so
very
fun.
It was very fun.
Yep.
We had,
And if you get a chance to go and see it, go see it.
October 12th.
October 12th.
It's the next one. We took
Third
September
Coast
off.
Comedy.
Took September off because I'm going to Italy with Ellen.
Oh, yes.
Poor guy.
I know, for 2 weeks. It's only the second 2-week-long vacation I think I've ever taken in my
Really?
life. Yeah. I
Dude,
took
you need to
one
get out
about
more.
5-6 years ago to Italy. to Germany.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I
I
was
was
like,
gonna
you
say,
liked it a lot.
going
You
back.
liked it a lot,
did you?
Why not?
to
You missed some things.
to Germany, and
Yes.
now we're going to Italy for 2 weeks.
That's
So,
awesome.
Super fun.
Italy's great.
Oh, good.
Never
Yeah.
been to Italy.
Yes.
But
you
anyway,
would go.
thank you for
Yes.
for coming to it, and thanks for saying all that.
And we
'cause
got
it
to
was
hang
really
out
Thanks
with
for liking
Lauren and
Yeah.
Andrew afterwards.
We had a
good time.
Good hangout with people.
That's
We really had a good time.
Timmons was there.
Yeah.
And his family.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
it
I was looking
so
for
good.
Sam, wasn't there.
I know.
I was in
Sam.
Indiana.
I know.
Aw.
Yeah.
I know. And we're sorry
Thank
for why
you.
you were in
Yeah,
Indiana.
my grandma passed away on Friday. So,
Boy, we just
yeah.
took a-
no.
a-
No,
I
it's-
didn't
he
want to
was-
swing it that way.
But she was ready to go.
She was 92. Literally, she had the day circled on her calendar.
God bless her, man.
That's how I'm gonna go. That's how
It was
I'm
the 19th
picking the
anniversary
day.
of my mom's passing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she, which I didn't even put together at the time, she died the next day. So, yes, I mean, obviously we were sad. I would say grandma was home, you know.
Yeah.
But also a ton of joy, you know, because she was so ready. And the nurses were like, can't believe, like, because Monday she seemed fine, and then Friday she was gone. And I'm like, yeah, you don't know Joanne Cupp. She made up her mind, and that's what happened. So, you know,
That's such a classic
it's so
name.
funny, man. Yeah.
Her name was Joanne Cupp.
Joanne.
Oh,
Actually,
I thought it was
her.
Joy
I'm gonna
Ann
tell.
Cupp.
Okay.
I thought
You know
it sounded what? like a
C-U-P-P.
C-U-P-P. That was always our joke as kids. C-U-P-P. It was so funny. But her actual name, I'm sorry, Grandma, is Lavona Joanne
Wow.
Cupp. So she went
That's
by
a great
Joanne.
name.
Lavona.
Lavona.
That is
She didn't like Lavona?
No.
it's a
no.
beautiful
I like
name.
Lavona.
I did too,
Lavona.
actually.
Yeah, it's a cool name. I think
works.
it's cool now, but like when we were growing up, it
Not
was
so
like
cool. No.
Lavona.
It's a character name.
Yeah,
for sure.
There's Doug and Lavona.
And
That was my
everybody's
grandma.
like naming their kids old people names
Yeah.
now. So like it could be the next hot name.
Yeah,
It
true.
could be.
Wow.
We have old kid names.
Look what you might have
We do
started
too.
here.
But cheers to Lavona.
Yes.
A life well lived.
So well. I mean, like, yes, that's perfect way to
Yeah.
end it about her. So yeah,
It's awesome.
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah.
So where were we?
Well, we were talking about the psychologically healthy church, and the way we define that is there's a book and a book series out. I think it's called The Emotionally Healthy Church.
Correct.
And I've read it. It's good, but it really focuses on one aspect. Psychology or psychological is broader in that it includes the emotional, but it also includes the cognitive or the thinking. It includes the relational, and it includes the behavioral or sort of how we live it out in action.
Right.
And so one of the suggestions that was made is, why don't we take of those 4 areas, 2 of them, tackle them today and extend that to next time and tackle the other 2.
That'd be awesome.
So the 2 that I want to suggest that we tackle today are the thinking or cognitive part
Okay.
and the emotional part.
Okay.
They fit together very
Yeah.
nicely. So before we talk about that, I want to say the gold standard in psychological therapy and in therapy work is typically cognitive behavioral. And the reason I'm saying that is that cognitive is thinking, behavioral is action, and the 3 aspects of in other words, if you have an emotion, you use the cognitive, the thought, and the behavioral, the action, to help manage the
emotion,
the emotion,
the feeling, whatever.
right?
Yep.
And we see this link between the cognitive and the emotional a lot.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah, it
what
makes
these
sense,
2
though.
things, right? Is how you think influences how you feel influences how you think, and so on.
Correct.
So we're going to have a lot. I'm saying all that
Yeah.
is a long wind up to say a lot of overlap here.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Is that a good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're good
I think
with
it's
that
great.
setup.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
All right. So I'm mostly going to do the setup, and you all have to do the heavy lifting today, because
right.
I want to talk about how this looks in a church community.
Okay.
Yep.
So cognitive first. What does it look like to have a church that is cognitively healthy, or there is a healthy thinking church?
Okay. Yeah.
And so just some ideas on that, and then you all take it from there. Is it feels like it would be a church that encourages critical thinking.
Correct.
A lot of churches, and again, we're not harshing on anyone, but they don't encourage critical thinking. They encourage, you're taught something and you accept it, and then you try to fit things into that.
Correct.
It seems like a cognitively healthy church says, here is how you can think with some agency, independently, about what you're hearing, not only in church, but also in broader culture.
Yeah.
And then how in teaching those skills.
Yeah. Is that a logic question, or is that something different?
Well, it's a little different. But
Okay.
it's critical thinking would be how to take information you're hearing and really look at it in a critical way, where you're saying, does this hold up? Is there evidence for that?
Okay.
And so on.
Gotcha.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
and
I'll
I'll put them all on the table, and then you guys pick
Okay.
through. Then, and also modeling that in how things are taught, modeling that in in what is taught. And the last part would be to teach the thinking skills to help manage the emotional part, which we'll talk about second.
Okay.
So encouragement of critical thinking, teaching and equipping how to do critical thinking, modeling of that critical thinking, but then also using thinking as a way of managing emotion. Go. What does that look like?
I have one more question for you from the psychological, either one of you. How does belief fit into cognitive?
Belief is cognitive.
Okay, so what I believe is what I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is not an exhaustive list, so yes.
Okay, I just verifying because that's a big
belief and belief is a cognitive process, and that, as we've said, is some of the, let's say, error or limitation of where the evangelical world that we've all been in and grown up in has sort of limited faith almost to the cognitive.
Right.
It's like, get your act together with your beliefs, believe X, Y, and Z, and then use sort of systematic theology to kind of extrapolate or fill in the gaps, and then you're good. Right. You pray in a way that says, I believe these things, I'm good, check the box. And then I have good theology, then I'm good. Right. And the lip service is, and then it shows up in how you live, but we don't really emphasize that much. So that's
right.
Okay. But any thoughts about what this looks like in encouraging critical thinking, using the cognitive to be emotionally healthy, looks like in a church context?
Sure. I think it was very discouraged in the church I was growing up in, just to say that. I think I worked in a church that it was discouraged for people to really think beyond the what was presented, to receive without being critical, to take in and take my word for it. I mean, I heard that many times. Take your word for it. Okay, it's not adding up, but I'm supposed to take your word for it. So,
which is the opposite of teaching critical thinking.
I know.
It's the opposite.
That's right. When you hear somebody say, "Trust me, I know," that's, I think, the indicator of, I really don't want you to think about it, and I don't want you to question me. I grew up in a house like that too. It was very much so. Don't think for yourself.
Authoritarian.
It's
like,
these are the rules.
We tell you how to think, and then also how to behave.
Yeah, and I rebelled against that in many ways, because I didn't want to do that to my kids, and I definitely didn't want to do it to the people that were part of the church that I was pastoring in. But I'll let's say this: I actually went to a seminary that promoted thinking.
Which was?
Trinity Evangelical Divinity School.
In Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah, good one.
Surprisingly, I picked it because it didn't have a dress code. Okay. Truth be told.
Must have been nice.
Because the other one I picked, you had to wear a jacket and tie. And I was like, oh, no, I found that out. And I was like,
this was like clothing optional.
Pretty much. I mean, the profs would show up dressed with sandals and shorts. So anyway, all that to say this was in the 80s. When you went to Trinity to school, they taught you all the different options. They didn't indoctrinate you into a particular option. I.e., I learned all the different versions of end times. I learned all the different versions of the atonement. I learned all the different versions of what reformers think and what Armenians think and what Lutherans think and so we were known as the graduates of that school of people who could give you an answer to any question, but have no basis but have no firm belief system, because we know the whole thing. And
it could be this, it could be this,
it
could be this.
I'll give you the options, you choose. So I was kind of indoctrinated into that as a pastor. I was kind of indoctrinated into this idea, think for yourself. Think it through. Don't take my word for it. Read this, read that. So I think part of my, I didn't like seminary because of many reasons. It was very expensive, but, and it did in many ways turn the Bible into a textbook, and it turned my relationship with Jesus into something other than what I had always wanted it to be. long story short, I'll just kind of, and so that's the part of seminary I didn't like. But I did like is that I could talk about any version of theology you want to talk about, and be comfortable talking about any of them. So I think a healthy church does the same thing with cognitively healthy church would say there are other options to this. We don't have the corner on it, and have very few essentials.
Yeah. Well, I think too, I always go back to this, but it's that curiosity, like encouraging that. And I think like that's a big part of critical thinking.
Yeah. Asking questions, spurring on people to think through.
And I like the idea when you've kind of framed it up at the top, like this idea of critical thinking, like, you know, that leads to behavior. I'm just thinking about like growing up, and I wasn't taught to be curious, kind of like what you're saying. It was more just take this. Yeah. And that then shaped that behavior, but in a way that it didn't feel honest either. Like I felt like I was living dishonestly, you know? So I felt like I was keep holding the company line, but it didn't feel, stuff still felt off.
Well, it wasn't congruent.
Right. It didn't line up, didn't add up.
I feel like a lot of churches and people who work in churches feel like their job is to have answers. People in the world are having difficulty and having trouble. And our job is to have the answers for them. How would you, and so then you can see how this, like, well, we don't question, because like our job is to teach you a doctrine that then you live out, and that's good for your life. How would you guys say you see the job of the church differently than that? If it's not the place that has the answers, what is it?
It's the place of community where you work it out. It is,
good answer.
It is the place where you come and meet people that are wrestling with and trying to understand how to live out their faith in Jesus. And this is why many people have left Journey. There's not enough certainty. There's not enough not enough fences to keep people out, or not enough fences to keep people in.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, we don't have any. Yeah. So there's, that's the struggle. Yeah. Because sometimes I want to just, somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, we're leaving. Da da da. You didn't do this, didn't do that." And when I was younger, I would have, let's talk this through. Yeah. Now that I'm older, I go, "Oh, I'm sorry, it didn't work out for you." Yeah. Tell me what you're looking for. I can point you to. There's a bazillion churches here, a bazillion. We can point you in the right direction. But yeah, I think uncertainty is really hard for people in this arena, because they want certainty about God.
If anything, about that part, right? Like, yeah. I feel like for a lot of people, that's, as long as I have certainty there, somehow I can make everything else kind of make sense, right?
But I think in those places of certainty, we shrink God. We shrink God down to a place of human understanding.
Yeah, that's big.
And I just can't go there anymore. I mean, and I think that's actually what systematic theology does.
I do too.
It shrinks God into a system. Yeah. And I can't go there either.
Right. And then everything, you start with the system rather than you form this system that then
he has to fit into.
Everything has to be answered through that.
Right. Right.
My other question I'm having is, of course, you and I think it's healthy for a group of people to open themselves to questioning and be transparent. Yeah. But like, would you say there's biblical evidence that this is good? Did the early church have critical thinking? Is there a place in the Bible where we see this modeled?
Yeah, I think Jesus modeled it all the time. I think his natural response to most questions was
a question.
A question.
Yeah.
And he invited the questions, and he invited the dialogue. I also think that it's probably the best way to learn. I think prompted with questions, prompted with discovery of, without somebody just handing you the answers. Can you work on this a little bit? Can you think it through? Can you do a little research yourself? Can you own it for yourself? I think that was the biggest transition for me when I got older, was, okay, I heard all this growing up. Either I'm in or I'm out. I had one of my brothers just challenged me. He said, "Do your own thing, figure it out." And I did my own work. And I came out the other end going, I don't see any other better options than Jesus. Right. And so it thrust me into it deeper.
One thing I love about Jesus' style is he did have times where he would teach, like Sermon on the Mount.
Right.
Was a direct teaching.
Yes.
By the way, did have a great deal of challenge and mystery to it.
It did.
But his primary way of teaching, I think, was stories.
Yep.
What we call parables. And there are only a few exceptions where he explains it. Mm-hmm. You know, he'll say, okay, here's what I meant. These 4 soils mean this thing.
Right.
And he did explain that.
Yeah.
And so he was showing sort of, okay, here's how this works.
Yeah.
But a lot of times he'd throw this out. I'd say 90% of the time, I don't know, but if that's the exact number, but he would throw 87.2%. He would throw it out there.
Yeah.
And then that demanded a kind of critical thinking.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, here's this command or statement.
Right.
It was a story that then you had to be like, what does that mean? And what is the connection there? And what is what here?
And is he talking about me? Is he talking about me?
Right.
Yeah.
So to me, that is if you talk about a beautiful way to promote critical thinking, it's using stories that then make people wrestle with what's the truth here? What's the thing that he's trying to get at?
Right. Yeah. Right.
And there are a few that are still, you know, there's one in Luke where he has a guy who gets fired and he's old, and then
the shrewd manager,
and he goes to other people and he sort of cuts deals with them. Yeah. And then Jesus says he's commended. Yeah. Right. It's like
for his shrewdness.
Right. For his shrewdness. Like, what is he talking about? Yeah. It's not super clear, but I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So steals from his master and he gets commended.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. He commends the character in this. He's commending the shrewdness. Yeah.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah. It is.
Any other thoughts about how to build this into church community in critical thinking, welcoming of critical thinking?
Yeah, it's just because we do this it's creating a platform that's not elevating somebody above the rest. Mm-hmm. Everyone's questioned. Everyone. The teacher can be questioned. The pastors can be questioned. It creates an environment that doesn't.
That's that mutuality idea.
Yeah, and we want the questions, and we may not agree.
And I think
we respond. We don't answer. Sorry.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. But like, I think the difference is some communities, like, will say, like, they kind of give it lip service, like you should critically think about these things.
Yeah.
But then others, I think, actually resource or help give the tools to do that. And
Correct.
So I think that's what it looks like to encourage that is not just lip service, but look, like really encouraging
an equipping
that.
Of
Equipping
that.
Equipping
here's a reading list. Here's some ways you can go about that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's switch to the emotional. And the way I would see an emotionally healthy church includes, not limited to, where it is an emotionally supportive environment. Mm-hmm. I had someone tell me recently that their church was a church that if you had some area that you're struggling with, you kept it to yourself because you knew that a certain answer was coming and there was a right answer and a judgment to follow.
Yeah.
So an emotionally healthy church is an emotionally supportive church that does not pick at that and judge that.
Mm-hmm.
It fosters emotional intelligence, which is the ability to talk in emotional ways, understand what you're feeling and manage that. And then it equips people to manage their emotions well.
Yeah.
What does that look like in a church context? How does that show up and how do we do it?
Yeah, I actually think that's Sam's wheelhouse.
I do too.
I think he lives there.
Go, Sam.
Yeah. Well, go specifically, like, what do you
either what does it look like in your view, or how do we equip or form a church that is emotionally healthy in that way?
Well, it's funny, I know I said this earlier and I think it's true on the other side of it, which is a curiosity.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because it's real easy if somebody comes to form our judgment but to try and actually understand the why, not just the manifestation or the thing that happened because of, but to actually, try and understand what's going on underneath the behavior or.
But you meet them in their emotion. It's, Jesus, you weep with those who
That's
weep.
right.
You rejoice with those who rejoice. You meet them in their place of emotion. I think that's different than what you might do in a psychology office. There's times when we just meet with somebody and we cry with them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just part of the deal. They're going through something really difficult. Marriage is done.
Yeah.
There's just deep sobbing.
Yes, sometimes
there's
just
nothing,
a being with.
Yep, nothing to say.
Yeah,
Nothing
totally
to say.
True.
I'm just going to meet you in your emotion.
Yeah.
And we, as pastors, and I'm sure you guys, we are with people in their most vulnerable moments, happy moments, the celebration of a child, the celebration of weddings, the celebrations of milestones. We get invited to all that stuff, and we get to participate. We get to join in.
Go to magic shows.
Go to magic shows.
Right. The
and then
ones.
on the other end of that, we
get to be there with people as they pass,
when they're at their worst,
as they're in the hardest moments. Yeah.
And to meet them there. I don't know what it's like for you guys in that psychology idea.
What's coming to mind for me is Marsha Linehan's concept of the wise mind, where she's the creator of something called dialectical behavior therapy, and it's for people with borderline personality disorder. You can use it for a whole host of things. But folks with borderline personality disorders, we've talked about, typically struggle a lot with emotional regulation. And she has this Venn diagram where she describes a lot of people sort of live in rational mind, or they live in emotional mind, highly reactive. And rational mind is like, my emotions are cut off. I'm sort of a robot. I make all decisions based on pros, cons. I'm not in touch with my feelings. And that the place where those meet is wise mind.
I love
where
that.
You're including sort of both
So
your rational.
It's like your head and your heart
and your
meet.
emotional side.
Like
And I wonder if that might have some application for the church, in that we don't want to be just all feeling, all emotion, not really using our rational mind, no boundaries, but and I think there's, interestingly, like some types of theology that lean more high rational,
for sure.
low emotion, and some that are higher emotion, lower rationality.
Yeah, and it plays itself.
No, it's great.
Yeah,
It plays
totally
itself
true.
out in the church too.
Yeah.
You see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We would definitely lean rational.
Yeah.
You think so?
For sure. That's why we need you around, Sam.
Yeah.
I would actually agree, but I would agree.
But it's there's such an interesting heart aspect of
there
this
is.
community.
There
too.
is.
That's why it's hard for me to go, do we just leave? Because maybe it's the seat I sit in.
I'm picturing her Venn diagram here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I would say that we have the overlap is more into the what was it?
The rational.
Rational.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
I think that.
Yeah. I can see that.
But you're right. It's not to the exclusion of there is a heart here, a warmth here, an ability to be with people,
and an openness
in joy and pain, an openness.
Yeah,
that's a biggie.
Yeah, an openness and I think
Venn diagram.
I experienced and just an authenticity in people in that way. So all those things.
But I think it has to be open to that, and I think we are. But it will never take the wheel. It will never drive it.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense.
Yep.
All right. Let me recap.
Okay.
Because there's more to talk about. But
yes.
I think so
so much to talk about.
There's a lot of good stuff, and we can extend this as we need to.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to tackle the other two next time, but if we need to come back and pick up some.
Great.
Yeah.
So some of the key points, and you guys join in this if I'm missing some, is on the cognitive and emotional side is infusing curiosity as a value, right? It's like a curious church, a curious community that is not just, I've got all the right answers, I've got all the right responses, but I'm curious about how the nature of people, the nature of God, my own heart. So curiosity, a big one.
Yeah.
The second one is giving people the license and the equipping to explore different options, sort of what you're describing at your seminary.
Invitation.
Permission, invitation to be like,
invitation.
okay, I'd heard this and I believe this, but maybe I need to consider that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that there's no truth.
Right.
It just means that there is a exploration which is not looked down upon, but encouraged.
Yeah.
There's an equipping both of teaching these skills cognitively and also teaching these skills emotionally. And then there's a willingness to be in the presence of people in their emotion, in their emotional experience, with non-judgment.
Yeah.
Right. Being in the joy of it and being in the muckety muck of it and the hardness of it, just the presence, a non-judgmental presence.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the last is really teaching and modeling and equipping to have that wise mind where we say, this is an integration of the cognitive or rational and the emotional or the affective, and where those two things meet are the balance that we're trying to hit
For sure.
in life and in faith.
Yep. Wow.
Good.
Yeah,
Good
that's
stuff.
really good.
Dang.
Yeah.
All right. We got
Thanks.
somewhere good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We
Thank you.
will pick it up. Thank you. Thanks for
Thanks,
being
Lauren.
here.
Yeah. Thanks
Have
for
a
having
great day. And by the way, it's hot out.
Yeah.
Really, really hot
Weather
out.
forecast again.
Yeah, here
We-
we go.
it
Gotta
wouldn't
get
be
that in.
it wouldn't be a podcast with
Well,
Kevin
I
without
know.
a weather forecast.
That's right.
So
We're
Thanks,
out.
Mick.
Bye.
thank you.
Journey on My Mind is a production of Journey Church in Brentwood, Tennessee. Edwin Rivera III is the show's producer with technical assistance from Randy Hansen. Grant Opperman edits the show. If you have a suggestion for a future topic or a question, you can text us at 615-861-9503. And if you'd like to talk to someone about spiritual or mental health issues, you can email our care pastor, Sam Barnhart, at sam@journeytn.com.